Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Peter Schiff Show is underway now. Joining the program is Mark Skousen. Mark is the editor-in-chief of a newsletter called Forecasts and Strategies, and he also produces Freedom Fest. He's written better than 25 books, very prolific, one including The Makings of Modern Economics, The Lives and Ideas of Great Thinkers. He is educated in economics. He has a BA and Master's from Brigham Young University, a PhD in economics from George Washington University. He's actually taught economics as well. I'm also reading, I didn't realize, Mark, you were an economic analyst for the CIA.
That's right. Very secretive, Peter. Very secretive.
So you're kind of an economic James Bond.
Well, I do keep contact with a few of my old CIA buddies, and of course, CIA was, as you know, was a government agency that failed repeatedly at predicting the future. I think you have a much better record than they do.
Yeah, well, I think the government pretty much fails at everything it does, but Freedom Fest, on the other hand, has been a great success. Let's start out talking about that, because I remember going to the first Freedom Fest. I can't remember what year it was, but I remember it was a very small affair. There weren't that many people there, and now it's grown to an enormous gathering, and I really got to congratulate you on your success there.
Well, thank you, Peter, and I think one of the reasons is that finally everybody's realizing that we can't be a herd of cats, that we have to come together once a year physically in one location. What better place than the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas? So we're meeting next week at Bally's, and we're going to have over 2,000 wealthy investors and concerned citizens there. We have a lot of students because we have a student discount, but all the think tanks are going to be there, and of course all the best and the brightest of the economists like yourself and financial advisors. Steve Forbes is going to be there. You are going to be there, and Steve Moore of the Wall Street Journal, Senator Rand Paul, Judge Napolitano is going to be there. John Mackey of Whole Foods Markets. I mean, we have some of the brightest people around.
Peter Thiel's going to be there?
Huh?
Peter Thiel is coming too, isn't he?
Well, Peter Thiel came last year and was going to come this year, and I've just been in correspondence. He has a conflict, so he's not going to come this year, but he is planning to come next year when we move to Caesar's Palace. We're just growing so rapidly that we're moving to bigger facilities. So the idea is to bring together. I mean, we're actually having an emergency meeting on Thursday that you are participating in, and then of course we're having our Wall Street on Trial, our mock trial on Friday as well that you're involved in, and a luncheon as well. I was reviewing your confrontations with the Occupy Wall Street people, and I'm really looking forward to this kind of confrontation that we're going to have on Friday afternoon when we have our mock trial, Wall Street on Trial, where you're going to be one of the star witnesses. So, you're confronting Congress, telling them, the look on their face, it must have been really something when you were appearing the other day in front of these guys.
Well, they just look at me and like I just came down from another planet, and they're just like, who the hell is this guy, and how dare he? Because normally they're used to witnesses kissing their butt, telling them how great they are, because they want something from them. I don't want anything from them. I want my liberty back. I want my freedom back. I mean, part of the problem with Freedom Fest is every year I come there and we have less freedom to celebrate.
Yeah, in fact, there's a saying that I think is very appropriate, that in today's world everything is either mandated or prohibited. And, our freedoms are just being narrow and narrower all the time. And there's some kind of, I don't know what it is, but the longer government is around, the more they have to regulate. They have to keep adding to all these regulations as if we didn't exist in a very civilized way before we had all these stupid Dodd-Frank regulations, which, by the way, I just read is basically there are no new applications for any new banks this year for the first time in who knows how long. And the reason is because we're so over-regulated and there's so many rules that prohibit this or mandate that, we're losing our freedom. So at Freedom Fest, and by the way, I just want to do this is just a personal feeling, but I think this new book you have, The Real Crash, is the best Peter Schiff book that I have ever read because you're so hard-hitting. You have this no-compromise approach to what is the ideal political economy, and you go through every, whether it's Obamacare or regulation of the banks or the monetary system. And I'm just delighted that you're going to be speaking on this at our Freedom Fest next week in Las Vegas.
And it's not too late for people to get tickets, right? Even though it's just next week,
next week. So if they go to freedomfest.com, they can get tickets and just drive there. They have free parking at Bally's. You can fly there. The rates they've reduced the rates just recently. And we have a cheap rate at the hotel.
Yeah, the only problem is that McCarran Airport is the worst. I mean, you try to get out of there, and the security line is I've actually missed flights coming out of Vegas because I had to wait for over an hour in the security line, even on a first-class ticket. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I think one of the problems, you have to understand that Las Vegas made a fundamental error several years back when the new Las Vegas was created and they doubled and tripled their size. They became huge. The city planners made no attempt to adjust. It was government run amok. They are not a Hong Kong. You go to Hong Kong, you can get off the plane and you can be in your hotel room sipping a martini in half an hour after leaving the plane because they have that super speedway in Hong Kong. So Las Vegas, unfortunately, suffers from that. But look, what price? Freedom. And to come there, I mean, I can tell you that we have letters from people talking about you and other speakers saying this is the most exciting event that I have been to. And I've always felt all along we need to come together once a year. And so that's what the whole plan is.
Well, that's good. I know you've been doing
rapidly.
it. This will be the last year at Bally's. Your Freedom Fest, I mean, the Money Show moved to Caesars. So now they're there, too, and you'll be at Caesars, I guess, next year. But let's come back and we'll talk a little bit more about economics and the markets and not so much about Freedom Fest. We'll save that for next week when we'll all get together. Hopefully we won't have too many martinis to get over the frustration of dealing with the security at the airport. And there's always a lot of traffic getting to the Strip, even though it's so close to McCarran. But we'll be right back. More of the Mark Skousen interview coming up.
The Peter Schiff Show.
It's clear to just about everybody that the global economic sands are shifting. Have you positioned your investments to help ride the tide? For more than a decade, U.S. stocks have gone nowhere, even while inflation has steadily eroded the dollar's purchasing power. And now, with Washington's money machines spinning out of control and deficits and regulations swamping American productivity, U.S. stocks are looking even riskier, and the bond market may be the next bubble waiting to pop. But most brokers and financial advisors still offer the same tired investment formula. If you're ready to move on with the times.
This is Peter Schiff speaking with Forecasts and Strategies. Mark Skousen. Mark, before the break, you started talking a little bit about Dodd-Frank. And, FINRA is the regulatory body that self-regulates the brokerage industry. They just reported that in the last fiscal year, they lost $84 million. And during that time, they paid all their executives multi-million-dollar pay packages. But one of the reasons they lost so much money is because all of the transactions are down, because so many firms are failing, because they can't afford to comply with all the rules and regulations that are coming down from FINRA through, Dodd-Frank or other, acts of Congress. And now what does FINRA want to do? They want to raise up the fees on the firms that haven't failed yet, making it harder for them to stay in business. It's FINRA that is responsible for their own demise.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is you really do get a point where the burden, there's this proper balance. If a country's going to grow, you have to have a situation where the growth part is able to overcome all the regulations and so forth. You're able to achieve some kind of profitability despite all of these regulations. And I'm afraid that just like the welfare system has gotten so big, or Social Security, people on Social Security is so big compared to the people who are working, that we're out of balance now. So we've overpromised and we've over-regulated, and it is really destroying the initiative of you and me and all the other productive citizens. At some point, everybody who's productive is going to go on strike, just like Ayn Rand predicted, because it's to their advantage. It's no longer to their advantage to just work and be productive and pay taxes and so forth.
Mark, I read a news story. I mentioned it earlier today, and I just confirmed it, that in the month of June, more Americans went on disability than got jobs. And, in fact, during Obama's entire presidency, more Americans have gone on Social Security disability than got a job.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we didn't have a sudden outbreak in legitimate disabilities. So these people are making a conscious decision that they would rather live off the state and claim a phony disability than get a job.
Yeah, no, I know Bill O'Reilly actually talked, I think it was last night, talking points about this very problem where we're just being saddled with so many of these regulations, and people are taking advantage of this overly generous. We have an overly, I have nothing against, and I'm sure you don't either, in belonging to a church or a foundation or even a government that is offering some kind of benefits to help people who need help temporarily. But when you have, my wife is, with her church, deals with fourth generation people on welfare. And now we're making it even more generous. I don't know if you've seen the thing on the food stamps, where they're now encouraging these advertising to get people on food stamps. We already have, 49 million? I don't know how many it is.
Plus, you can use them to buy cigarettes and beer. Yeah. I mean, so, you
Well, that's illegal from what I understand, but they just look the other way.
Yeah, and meanwhile, so then we got to pay for their liver disease and their lung diseases with free medical care. But I don't even think, Mark, that the government should be involved in temporary welfare programs, because they never stay temporary. You can't trust the government, and all the government wants to do is breed dependency. They don't want to lift people out of poverty. They want to trap them in poverty so they can get their votes. I'd rather have people keep their money and give it to churches and private charities, and when people need some temporary help, let them go to one of those institutions where people really care about helping them, and they'll have a lot more money if the government doesn't tax us so much, and there'll be a lot more opportunity, so there won't be as many people who need help, because without all this government, we'll have a much more vibrant economy.
Yeah, I just as a perfect example of this, my wife is the church leader to help people on church welfare for our Mormon church here. So this would be applicable since Mitt Romney is a Mormon. And what's interesting is that every person who comes in for welfare to help on food or rent or what have you, they have to come in and talk to the bishop, the Mormon bishop, and say, okay, what do you need now? We can help you now, but you have to come in every other week. You have to sit down. There's no automatic check system. Our government welfare program, you just it's impersonal. You send them a check, they've signed up, and they get it forever, it seems. The caseworkers just don't seem to care.
And, of course, people don't actually look at these welfare benefits and food stamp benefits and housing assistance program and medical assistance as a huge tax on working, because if anybody wants to go from welfare to work, they lose all those benefits, which means the marginal tax on taking a job is not just the payroll taxes and the income taxes, but all the benefits they lose, which for many people is such a huge tax that they never want to give up, they never want to get a job.
No, it's very real. Again, we work with people in Yonkers, and they have Section 8 housing and so on. And we were talking to this one woman who had a job offer, legitimate offer, but she was really worried because once she takes that job, the Section 8 housing and the subsidy is gone. And she said it would take years for her to get that back. So she was really uncertain about it. And, of course, our recommendation is get out of Yonkers. That's the key, because so many of those people, sadly, are stuck in a route and have a hard time getting out.
Well, let's look at that. Let's turn our attention to the markets. The Dow is down 170 points today. We got that bad jobs number, which sent the markets going down. But are you still surprised? Gold is now down $17 too. The U.S. dollar is up. Treasuries are up. Why are people reacting to a weakening U.S. economy, knowing that more money printing is coming? Why are they now saying, aha, let's sell our gold, buy dollars, and buy treasuries?
Well, I really think it's all relative. Where do you turn to put your money? Okay, you go to the safety and treasuries. Look, who's worse off? The U.S., which is going down the road of Europe, but we're not as far down as Europe is. So I think it's all temporary relative, but it's also ignorance. And people haven't read your book, Peter. That's the problem. You get on the TV and so on, but it's not enough. These people still think in the old ways that they've been taught at school. That treasuries are the safest investment.
But the crazy thing, Mark, is I can understand, although I would disagree with somebody buying treasuries because they're worried about Europe. But today the worries are about America. Today we got bad news on the jobs market. Why are treasuries a safe haven from America? If you're worried about the U.S. economy, why would you buy U.S. treasuries?
Well, I think it's just a temporary phenomenon, and eventually they'll catch up. But look, if you've been taught over and over again the wrong principles that treasuries are the safest investment in the world's largest market in liquid market is the treasury market. I think that's what people are living on. But, Franz Pick once said that these are guaranteed certificates of confiscation. I don't know if you remember that long time ago.
I like Doug Casey's line. I've used it. I always credit it to him because I don't like to take stuff. But he said he called them return-free risk.
Yeah. Well, it's outvesting, right? It's not investing, but outvesting, I think, is the phrase that's being used. That people
Yeah. What you just said, though, about people's attitudes and what they learned about treasuries, that's exactly what they learned about real estate. Hey, you can't go wrong with real estate. Real estate always goes up. It's the best investment of the world. And people were singing that mantra right over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, and I think that's really what's going on here is that people are making the fundamental error of, let's put it this way. Humphrey Neal said it right. He says the public is right during the trends, but wrong at both ends. And when those ends come, it's going to be a rude awakening to these people. And, ultimately, the ultimate real money is gold or silver. The silver coin is our symbol at Freedom Fest, by the way, representing sound money and honest money and a good investment and liberty. It represents all of those things. And we encourage everybody at Freedom Fest to get a silver dollar. We have lots of coin dealers there. And you're doing well in your coin business, I would presume.
Yeah, Europac Precious Metals is doing well. I still have that the Morgan silver dollar that you gave me. I never bring it with me to Freedom Fest. I don't want to gamble it by mistake or lose it. But I got it with I think it was the date that Mises was born, or what was the significance?
1881, which is a palindrome. So it's a very symbolic of the magical nature of species.
Well, I'm going to keep mine at home, but I'm going to Freedom Fest. I'm flying out on Wednesday, so I'm sure I'll either see you Wednesday night or sometime Thursday. Everybody else, if you want to be with me and Mark, sign up for Freedom Fest at Europac's website or at the Freedom Fest website.